Electrificados. Electrificados en el garage. Electrificados en el GarageTV. Electrificados en el garage. Electrificados en el GarageTV.
Okay, Ned, we're here at the Heritage Hub, and I feel a little bit more Italian just sitting among these cars. What is this place?
This is a time capsule of everything that we have built over the last 100 years and more. I mean, this is where we store our vehicles from Italian brands, from Fiat and Alfa Romeo and Maserati and Lancia. I mean, what you see here is the history of amazing development of our Italian brands. This is the place where we come to inspire ourselves and just sometimes tap ourselves on the shoulder and say, wow, we did some amazing things.
Yeah. Now let's look a little bit to the future. How do you think this heritage impacts the in-cabin experience and its relative increased importance to the consumer?
It's a great question. I think what you see here, what you observe here, most of observation is the simplicity and utility. And I think the design being the utility of function is something that you can see, historically what we have done here in these brands. And I think, for some period of time in the automotive industry, we disconnected from it. Yeah. I think we inside the vehicle, we just added so many things that customers actually, the drivers don't care about nor enjoy it. And I think going back to that sort of, very simple yet intuitive design inside the cabin is where we after going back to basics, if you will, with a new twist.
I think it's interesting if you look at interior designs where digitalization, they actually get very, very good. So 60s, 70s, 80s are peaking, and then they really start getting bad. And I think a lot of the reasons they start getting bad is from the requirements of, hey, we're going to build this car in 2 or 3 years. Right. You basically freeze. And then by the time the digital experience comes out 3, 4, 5 years later, on day one, it's already dated. And so part of this collaboration is how can we create an environment, a platform where design can continuously be updated and the interface can continuously be tweaked all the way as you get into production. And that's taking a little bit of an inspiration from consumer electronics because there's a ongoing refresh experience there. How do you balance, though, that flexibility all the way to the fact that you have 14 brands and they all have, very distinct experiences?
A couple of things. Look at the history of design you mentioned. I mean, there's the cluster and the radio and the buttons and inputs and everything was very disjoint. And so you would sometimes even, split the sort of how you design the cluster.
HVAC is different from the radio, which is different from,
Exactly. So I had a lot of these inputs, a lot of controls that they had their own,
supply chain and suppliers.
And a life of their own. And then in the process of development, you would exchange some components, but not others. So you had very disjoint experience. So, putting everything together into something that's very meaningful and then enjoying the sort of freshness of it is what we're after. And that's what we're working with you to essentially create exactly that, make, simple yet always fresh, always intuitive.
Yeah, so basically separate a little bit of the pixels from all the underlying infrastructure so you get the flexibility across brands and across vehicles, but you're not rebuilding everything from every single car for every single platform.
I think, having 14 brands has, lots of challenges and every, cabin, every experience is a little bit different. When you go to, one brand sort of OEM solution, it's easier to just have that, but, it's our heritage. And so, but abstracting the sort of a platform, yet allowing the brands to have their own life, their own identity, it's critically important to us.
How do you think about that tension between, you have certain situations where you have a projection of a phone into the vehicle, and that actually is maybe a much worse brand experience than, let's say, what the OEM wants.
It's complicated. It's complicated question. It's not an easy question. our focus, my focus, is give the customers the best kind of experience that they want to have in the car. So if that to be a phone experience, let it be so.
Yeah.
If our experience is not good enough or better than the phone experience,
Then
they should have that experience. So the goal here really is what we build to be as good and better than the phone experience, projected phone experience. And I think it's a tall order to create that, because the sort of continuity of the phone in a cabin is just a natural native sort of thing, and people are now trained on that. Nevertheless, we spend a lot of money and a lot of time on the big screens and the software and things like that, where we have to figure out what does it mean to us, and how do we generate the value for the customer so they can stay on that screen without saying, well, you cannot use your phone